Each You Can Scratch, written by Tewa Wei. It all started after we got back from a family trip around Western Europe. We have family in some of the countries, but my mother and father really loved the history and architecture of the region. Everything went normal during the trip. We ate good food, saw cool sights, and spent time with distant relatives. I acted like I wanted to go home the whole time, but truth be told, I had fun. My younger sister turned 40 on the trip. We had a big party for her. She was really into makeup and stuff, so my parents got her a bunch of foreign brand that was popular. As far as I know, it only started once we get back home. My sister started complaining about an itch. She said there was a weird tickling sensation constantly on her back. She always asked anyone, and I mean anyone, even strangers around to scratch it for her, but was never satisfied. It was as though we couldn't get the right spot. It seems very frustrating for her. My mother thought it may be a rash or an adverse reaction to some of the products she got on her birthday. She saw the doctor, who said there was no sign of problem with the skin, aside from irritation where she obviously been trying to sketch it herself with various objects. She went to see specialists, first a dermatologist, then an immunologist, even naturopaths. My sister and the rest of us at the point were getting desperate. About 2 months after we had returned, it went from a scratch to an obsession. She was always scratching all over her body. She said she could feel the tinkle underneath the skin, as if thousands of tiny bugs were crawling under her insides, as she would put it. The closest thing we got to an answer was from a neurologist. He said that there could be problem with her nerves backfiring like crazy. He told us that there was certain medication that she could put on, but they would have serious and adverse effect. My parents were understandably hesitant, but she was in agony. We all agreed as a family we had no other option. I watched her getting worse with every day. The medication barely helped. She had a hard time communicating and paying attention. The only thing she could do probably was scratch her skin. As her brother, watching her go through this was heartbreaking. I was helpless. I was supposed to look out for her, to defend her and take care of her. I was at my wits' end, trying to think of what the hell I could do. She stopped taking the medication. She said it gave her uncomfortable side effects. She could hear the itching. She said it was better to deal with the irritating sensation rather than disquieting hallucination. We all understood. We wanted it to be as much her choice as possible with how to handle things. It was winter at that time. She had been going for counseling and therapy. My father believed that this was some kind of psychological thing, that a psychologist would be able to help her deconstruct the root of the issue. It's a good thing too, because if psychology hadn't noticed, I don't know if any of us would have. She had been wearing heavy clothes all the time. We assumed it was due to the cold. As it turned out, her body was covered in deep cuts. She had been slowly trying to skin herself. She explained to my parents when the psychologist told them, "You don't understand, whatever it is, it's inside of me. I have to let it out." My parents were mortified. I was too, but I couldn't help but wonder how she was able to hide it from us so well. I shared a bathroom with her, and I never found traces of blood that couldn't be easily explained away. In the hospital, She was maniac, screaming and flailing, refusing to hold still, to let the nurse bandage her. "That's just going to keep it in," she howled, desperately trying to rip through her clothing, to tear at her flesh. It was more than my parents could handle. She was sent to an institution where they could keep an eye on her around the clock. She would have no access to tools with which to harm herself, and she was forced to wear clothing that inhibited her from scratching. That was a week ago. Today we heard from the hospital. She is dead. The doctor said they weren't sure exactly how it happened, but at some point, when she and other parents were taken for a walk, she had managed to impale herself on a fence post through the throat. My mother hadn't spoken a word since we heard the news. My father is furious. He demands to know how this could happen when it's supposed to be a secure facility. Me, I am torn. As I sit here writing this, I am devastated from the loss of my dear sister, but I am distracted. I am terrified and I have no idea what to do now. I haven't told anyone, especially not my family, but something had happened. A few days ago, I felt an itch I just can't scratch.